All right, folks, we'll be live in about a minute. Just want to make sure all our connections are working for Facebook, X, and YouTube. So just stay tuned. All right, our X connection is up and working, waiting for Facebook and YouTube. Facebook is up, YouTube is up. We are good to go. All right, folks, Gene Gown here with the Chatham Journal. I've got, as always, Ashibo Rojas of the Chatham News and Record. This is the final ChathamNC Sports Roundup for this 24-25 season before we kick into next season, which will be around August. So we appreciate all of you who have been watching. And here's a roundup of what we're going to be talking about. Spring high school sports wrap-up. Of course, it's awards season. Shibo's got a long list of the individuals and teams that have done well here in Chatham County, have gotten recognized for it. And of course, you've got the all-region, all-state honors for baseball and girls soccer. We'll have that. And then we're going to jump right into the stories that Shibo has coming out in the Chatham News and Record newspaper. Definitely worth picking up this week. Why? Because there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. We're going to talk about memorable moments from this past high school sports season. Of course, we're going to get into Shibo's Athlete of the Week. And then what we're also going to touch on is we're going to talk on a little bit of Shibo's going to highlight some of the top athletes of the week this past year and top performers. We'll get a little bit. And again, if you've been picking up the paper on a regular basis, you've seen Ashibo's stories on the Chatham student athletes who are going to different colleges in the fall. We'll talk about a little bit about that. Of course, football season is only a few months away. August, we'll probably have a football preview. We've done two of those in the last 2 years, hoping to do that another one this coming year as well. And then we'll talk about Ashibo had a nice weekend assignment. We'll touch a little bit on that. And last year, Ashibo did win a NC Press Award, and the award season for that is coming up in about a couple months. I think he's been nominated for several of his stories. We'll see if he comes out with an award again this year. Again, reminder, follow us, Ashibo and me on X, and then we will talk about things we will be doing and covering this week. So let me get out of here and bring Ashibo on as I hide the screen. All right, Ashibo, last show of this season. So let's start off with spring high school sports wrap up. What do you have?
Yeah, so just to kind of wrap up the season, like Gene said in the paper, we have a couple of big moments as well, from the spring all the way back to fall. So you can get to relive some of those moments from football season, volleyball season, and things like that. But to start off with the wrap up, I do want to go ahead and shout out our all-state and all-region baseball players, and as well as the all-state and all-region girls soccer players. And the girls soccer story will be out in this week's paper as well. So start with baseball for Region 5, North Carolina Baseball Coaches Association released these teams yesterday. And we have 3 from Chatham Central, 4 from Chatham Charter that earned some all-region honors. From Chatham Central, Zane Overman, Benjamin Watson, and Reed Albright. And then from Chatham Charter, of course, standout pitcher Zach Cartret, Luke Johnson, Tyner Williams, and Jace Young get all-region nods this season. And I was interested. Interesting that I didn't see any Northwood and Seaforth or Jordan Matthews players, but I'm not sure if I guess they just maybe weren't nominated, not sure. But that's all we got for our region here in the county for baseball. But for girls soccer, switching over to there, we have some all-state athletes this year for Woods and Seaforth, and some all-region, of course, for including Northwood too, with those other 2 schools. So start with the 1A side. All-state and all-region. Annabelle Una from Woods Charter. She earns both honors, all-state and all-region. And it's her first all-state selection of her career. She's only a sophomore, and she gets all-region, of course, with 42 goals and 12 assists this season. Lucy Poitras, also from Woods Charter. She gets all-state nod as well as all-region. She was the sophomore midfielder, and got that honor with 49 goals and 13 assists on the year. And then also from Woods Charter, they had 2 more get all-region honors. And this for all Region 7 for both 1A and 2A for those listening. And yeah, from Willis Charter, Eliza Blanchard, freshman midfielder, 5 goals, and a team high 18 assists this year. And then Corey Myers, also from Willis Charter, freshman defender, and she had a really good defensive season for the Wolves with 3 goals offensively. And actually, we got more from Willis Charter. I'm going down the list. Wesley Oliver as well from the Wolves, junior defender, and Eve Terrell from Willis Charter, sophomore midfielder with 9 goals and 9 assists on the year. So yeah, Willis Charter, plenty of recognition this year. Of course, they had some great all-conference recognition last week that we talked about. Graham Stewart was named Coach of the Year as well, and they got that young team back to the 4th round of the state playoffs. And jumping over to the 2A side for our All-State and All-Region recognition, Caitlin Ehrman, senior striker from Seaforth, she earned All-State honors and All-Region with team highs of 45 goals and 37 assists. This is her second All-State selection. And yeah, I mean, if you guys coverage of Seaforth this year, she really kind of carried the load a lot of those times where they went through injuries, especially to Sophia Viana. And a lot of those games, they were still able to win, still able to dominate the conference and do well on the way to the playoffs were a huge part of her and what she did offensively. And of course, her teammate, the junior midfielder, Sophia Viana, she earned All-State and All-Region this season, even though she, like we said, dealt with some injuries, missed a lot of games this year. But in the few games she played, she still had 38 goals, 22 assists, and 16 steals at the midfielder position. And yeah, she earns her also second All-State selection in her career. And then the goalkeeper for Seaforth, Katie Leonard, she earns All-State and All-Region honors with 118 saves, 17 clean sheets on the year. And she had 28 saves. I think she had a game with 28 saves against Apex Friendship in March. So put up some really big performances for the Hawks this year. And then also from Seaforth and Northwood receiving All-Region honors, we have from Seaforth, Sydney Nezos, the junior defender, Sulema Arias from Northwood. She's a junior midfielder. And we have Sarah Ann Merrill from Northwood as well, the senior striker, and Gwen Williams from Northwood, their junior goalkeeper, all earning All-Region honors for Region 7. So those are the All-Region, All-State names we've had just recently this past week that were released, and I'm sure we'll get some more when softball gets released in a couple weeks as well.
All right, folks, so that's a roundup of all the honors, All-Region, All-State for baseball and girls soccer. We're going to dive right into what Ashibo's got coming out in the Chatham News and Record newspaper that comes out today. If you haven't picked up a copy, it's worth picking a copy because you're going to hear from Ashibo. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. Let's start off with your memorable moments from high school sports season. I think you mentioned that you've got an article on that.
Yeah, so went through and, of course, wanted to relive some of these moments, big games, team victories as far as going to championship games or making historic runs in the playoffs. And we had a lot of that this season. And just going all the way back to Seaforth, to the volleyball season, right? Seaforth volleyball, they broke through this year, got to the state final, and have been knocking on the door of some success the past few seasons. And they finally get to the state final game. Of course, they fall, I think, to McMichael, fell to McMichael in the final match there. But had some great things they saw this season. They welcome in the Valga sisters, Josie and Abigail from Woods Charter. And Josie stepped up huge for Seaforth this season. They went 25-5 overall, reached their first title game, like we said, after beating number 3 Manio on the road. Went to that game, and they got that one, I think, in 4 sets. So pretty convincing win there. And, yeah, of course, you can't talk about that team and not mention, of course, Allie Forbes, Kira Rosenmarkle, senior Maris Honeycutt that led the team in assists with 440. Forbes and Rosenmarkle, they both finished with 274 and 255 kills respectively. So, yeah, just a great season for that C4 team. A lot of those players will be coming back next season, especially Forbes and Valgus that should be returning for Seaforth next year. Maybe they can make another run at the state final. But just to continue on into the fall season, going into football, we have some big moments too. That Northwood Seaforth Battle of Pittsburgh game, 9-6 finish. Probably, I'd say, of course, it seems like the past 2 years, our rivalry games have been the best games of the year. Same this season, especially with Central and Chatham and Central and Jordan Matthews, and we'll talk about that a little later. But Northwood and Seaforth, they put on a defensive battle, and it came all the way down to the final minute. Seaforth, remember threatening on the Northwood 5-yard line. They tried to run the pitch, but the ball hit the ground, and Northwood recovered it right there, and then they were able to ice the game with a couple first downs on their next possession. But I mean, a great game. We had, I think, 2 interceptions each on both sides. We had a recovered punt, snap, return for a touchdown. There's a lot of craziness going on in that game, but that's what you want out of a rivalry game between two schools, players that know each other, parents that know each other, a community that's really close knit in Pittsburgh, and they got a chance to go at each other and put on a show in that one. So definitely made my list of some of the top moments of the year. Of course, like we said, going into the west side of the county on the football side, we had Chatham Central winning its first game since 2022, and they actually picked up another win in an unofficial game against East Columbus as well. But that last season, they played South Davidson in this one, won that one 16-14, had a 16-2 lead in that game as well. So, we saw some improvements from Chatham Central at the end of 2023 that we, kind of expecting to move over into 2024, which they did. And that was earlier in the year against the South Davidson team. They had lost to 40-0 the year before. So they also have a lot of key players coming back as well for Coach Darren Little down in Bear Creek. And it'll be exciting to see what they can do this season as well. But also, they're in another moment with Jordan Matthews. That rivalry game on the gridiron in a 14-6 with the Jordan Matthews victory. And yeah, that one had a lot of craziness back and forth in that one too, right? They had Jordan Matthews had a lost fumble on their first offensive snap, and then Chatham Central they capitalized on that with a 38-yard touchdown run by Nick Glover. Jordan Matthews had multiple touchdowns called back in this game. Great defensive plays in this game as well, and but Jordan Matthews had just stuck to the run game, got it going. Of course, they got the rushing touchdowns from Kenneth Dula, Nolan Mitchell, and they got a defensive stand after a long Chatham Central drive that lasted about a whole quarter and won the game in another classic battle. Because remember, the year before, we had another close battle between those two that Jordan Matthews won as well. So, yeah, that's from also from the football season, but also from the fall. We had Seaforth boys soccer, of course. Gene, if you remember, Coach Viana got something going with his boys this season, and they got to the third round of the playoffs and fell to James Keenan out there on the road. But unlikely playoff run for them because they came into the 2A playoffs as a 28 seed in the East. And we talked to Coach Viana, and he said scoring had been an issue for them all season. But, I mean, you just need one to win a soccer game. And so they beat number 5 Camden County on the road, 1-0 in the first round. And then they went to number 21 Manio and won that one in PK. So they had a magical run for their program, which was a lot of fun to cover. And also, too, going into the winter now with some moments, we had Seaforth girls basketball team going back and forth to Southeast Alamance. I think that whole series, this whole season was really a highlight from the Chatham County sports high school sports season because we had a rivalry team that's challenging Seaforth for that top spot in Mid Carolina 1A2A conference, which they have dominated pretty much since they've existed here as a girls basketball program, and they go to Southeast Alamance, win the first one and the close one, thanks to Katie Leonard making 6 threes. Southeast Alamance comes back in the regular season and wins that one 55-53 and snaps a long conference win streak for Seaforth in the regular season. And then, of course, Seaforth, they, kind of get the last laugh as far as winning the conference tournament title over them, but then they get another battle in the regional final for a spot in the state championship game. And Southeast Alamance took that one and eventually won the state championship. So even though Seaforth, our home school did fall short in that regional final game, and it was great competition to watch and follow throughout the year from both sides. And also on the basketball side, I mean, can't forget the Northwood boys still coming in and dominating and reaching another state title game a year after losing Drake Powell to UNC. I mean, Cam Fowler, Chad Graves, Isaiah Blair, Hayes Burleson, Bo Harvey handling the ball. They just all stepped up collectively as a team, and they just didn't go anywhere. They were still continuing at Northwood standard and proved to pretty much the whole state, all 2A, that I mean Northwood is here to stay. And of course, Cam 20.5 points per game this season, had a breakout year for him. Chad Graves also do some big things down low. I mean, those two are coming back. They have a bright future, this next year as well. So shout out to Northwood's boys for another great season. Also in basketball, Chatham Central's boys knocking out the back-to-back defending champions, Wilson Prep. I was at that game. Just always love being in Bear Creek for a basketball night with the environment. The fans are pretty close to the court. In a smaller gym, so the sound travels well. And with the defending champs coming in, a couple of guys on Chatham Central. Remember, I think it was Jeremiah Young and Brendan Oldham were on the Chatham Charter team a couple years before that, played them in the playoffs. And I think that year Wilson Prep went on to win the state championship. So they kind of had some revenge on their minds from that. And they came in and got the job done in a tight game, classic game, especially by Oldham. I think he had 6 blocks in that one. So great basketball game to be at, right, for the environment, also for the county, getting the team to advance in the 1A playoffs. And then back in the spring, you guys remember some pretty fresh memories. Of course, Woods Charter's girls soccer team keeping their winning tradition alive after losing 10 seniors from the teams that went to 3 straight state championship games. But they come out with a young team, like we said all year. They still get the 2 seed in the playoffs, make a run to the 4th round of the 1A playoffs, including beating a team that they played in the regional final the year before. So, yeah, just a great season for Woods Charter, who returned a lot of that team. I think, yeah, pretty much everyone on that team. They didn't have any seniors this season, so bright future for them as well. Also, too, kind of like a theme this season in the baseball, softball season, we had pitchers just balling out on both sides. So baseball, Zach Cartret down in Central Tar Heel 1A conference, he was pitcher of the year for them. And then also, too, over in the Mid-Carolina 1A, 2A conference, Finn Sullivan, pitcher of the year at Northwood, just balled out for both their teams this year. And then in softball, Emma Grace Hill, she pretty much led the way in Seaforth's breakout season in the circle. A lot of just dominant games in the circle for her, and also at the plate as well. She could do it on both sides. And of course, Maddie Kasmerchick, another great year. The sophomore at Chatham Central led them to a record season as well. And Lily Hicks at Jordan Matthews, who Jordan Matthews had a younger team this year, but Lily Hicks, one of the veterans, she did some big things for them and had a couple of really good games, including a perfect game against Northwood and 2 no-hitters during the season. So, yeah, pitchers had a great year on the diamond here in the county. And then, of course, C4's historic winter and spring, right? Winter, the boys won the indoor track and field title, and the boys come back in the spring and when they get an outdoor. They also had the softball team, like we said, break out this year, have a historic run to the 3rd round. Boys across team won a share of the conference title for the first time. And, of course, the Hawks wrestling team, back-to-back individual wrestling tournament champions, and they had a record 3 wrestlers win individual state titles this season as well. So also, too, in basketball, boys basketball, Coach Ray got his team to win their first ever playoff game as a 24 seed, upsetting number 9 Franklin Academy in the first round of the 2A playoffs. So, yeah, just a great season for C4, especially in that winter and spring side of the year.
All right. Hey, before we go on, Derek, our buddy Derek. Hey, Derek. ask, how are you going to cover it next year now that the conference is split up? Ashibo and I've talked about it. It's going to be a lot of changes next year with all the conferences changing. Um, we do know, Ashibo and I've talked with Jared over at North Seaforth, and Seaforth and Northwood are going to try to play as many sports as they can against each other. They've already committed to a football game. They're looking to do a home and away basketball game and a lot of the other things. I think track and field. Um, you're going to see a lot of when they have some of the county events. You're going to see a lot of the county schools from the 1A up to what's C4 going to be next year? 5, I think. And Ashibo and I have talked about it. Ashibo will continue to have his power rankings of the week for each one of the sports that we've done in the past, simply because folks like to talk about it. You may not agree with it, but we have heard from several coaches that they actually use that as an inspiration for their team to do better. Because Ashibo and Gene said you rank here, and we think you should be here, which is fine. That's part of covering sports here in Chatham County. Ashibo, you got any comments on what you're looking to do? I mean, it may be a little bit harder for you because you're going to have to travel. Actually, I'm going to have to travel more to cover some of these things because it's way spread out. What are your thoughts about conference changes coming up for next season?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult trying to get as much coverage as we can to all the schools, especially Chatham Central. They're going to be playing a lot of conference games far, I think, in Winston-Salem, Greensboro area, but of course, I think when it comes to, we're going to try to find the biggest games. I think as far as conference wise, conference implications, playoff implications as well, to try to go to us and cover. But definitely want to keep a priority on in county games, which a lot are going to be non-conference this season. So we're not going to get as many. But yeah, we're going to keep an eye on just I guess different teams and what they're doing in their seasons, who's going to have the biggest game of the Friday night or Tuesday night or wherever, and just go there and we're trying to keep bouncing around to all the schools we can, like we've been doing these past 2 years. I also want to correct something. I did say that I think I said that C4 won their first basketball playoff game for the boys side. Actually, that's not correct. It was their second playoff win as a program. So just wanted to clear that up. But yeah, we're just going, like the Gene said, we're just going to keep trying to get to as many schools as we can with the split conferences and see how this goes. It's going to be interesting how we can tackle this and how it kind of shakes out what schedules across all the schools and seeing how many schools are going to in the county are still going to get to play each other. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, Derek and everyone else listening, we'll try to figure it out for next year. I personally love when we have two Chatham County schools play against each other. It's fun. As Ashibo has mentioned previously, people know each other. It's a nice look. You got opposing team parents sitting next to each other, and they're talking about how life is going on, and it's like, yeah, my team's better than your team, and that's part of the enjoyment of watching two Chatham County teams play against each other. I also sometimes have people ask me, well, what's your favorite Chatham County team? You know what? I'm not lying. I love all the Chatham County teams because my kids went through school here in Chatham County. Got out of college. They're all in their 20s. And some of their best memories of high school is the sports they participated in or the sports they watched because their friends were playing in them. So Ashibo has been doing a great job here. As I said, he's got some nominations for the NC Press Awards. We'll know about that in a couple months. We'll probably report about that in August. Did win one last year, and not only was I proud of it, his mom was super proud of it as well. So she was doing a great job here in Chatham County, and I think we're blessed to have him here. All right. Anything else on memorable moments before we go into everybody's favorite part of the show?
No, I think we're ready to go into that part of the show. You ready?
All right, let me before you start going, let me scroll down because I want to make sure I pull up the right thing here. Yep, there we go. Shoot, who's Ashibo's athlete of the week this week?
Yeah, athlete of the week this week, we're going to go to the Chatham Post 305 American Legion team. We're just going to give it to Braden Brewer from the baseball team this past week for Post 305. 2-1 win over Moore County Post 12 on Saturday. Braden Brewer, he singled and scored Chase Young to tie that game at 1 run apiece in the bottom of the first inning. And then that ended up being Chatham's only RBI of the game, but they eventually walked off that game with a run from Zach Cartret. And we have a story for that in the paper as well. And before that first game, though, they had a 2-game series with Durham. They played, I think, a little bit of the first 3 innings in that first game. But Braden Brewer, who was already 2 for 2 at the plate, and that one with the run, so he was on his way to having a big game for post 305. A Brewer, and he's a senior, rising senior. He played for Chatham Central in the spring. He finished the season with 10 hits and 9 runs. Post 305 as a team, like we said, a lot of players from around the county and surrounding areas coming together, playing some summer baseball, which I know a lot of you guys love to follow them this season. It's a pretty big deal with Legion, of course, in the area, and they'll be playing some other local Legion teams throughout the season.
All right, so Brandon, congratulations. Also speaking about Legion baseball, folks that know Lee Moody out of Siler City, he's also been shooting some pictures out there as well. So you can see Lee because he likes to bring out his video and do talks with some of the players as he's out there taking pictures. All right, we talked about this week's Player of the Week. So let's touch on who you see as maybe your 2 to 4 top or most memorable players of the week for this year.
Yeah, 2 to 4 it's hard to just boil it down to 2 to 4. I was going through some of them, and I ended up making like saving probably like 8 or I mean not 8 or 9, 6 or 7 of them, and yeah,
you can do 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to boil it down to just 2 or 4, but of course the first ones that kind of came to mind, of course, Cam Fowler, when he earned Athlete of the Week during the Northwood Boys Basketball's regional final and state championship weekend. Of course, just recapping what it was. I mean, they had a 57-38 win over West Bladen in the regional final. And in that one, Cam Fowler had 19 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists, and 2 blocks, shooting 7 for 16 from the floor. And then against Reedsville in the state championship game, he led all scorers, both teams, with 27 points, and he scored 14 points in the fourth, to try to get Northwood back into that game, but just fell short. So even in the loss in the state championship game, still a standout performance from him on that big stage. And then also, too, I had Emma Grace Hill, dominant pitcher, like we said, in the spring season for C4's softball team. And this was the week she had won it, I think, week of May 5th. I think they had a tied 1-1 game in the 7th inning against Whiteville, first round of the playoffs. And she had knocked in a double, sent home Caitlin Long for the walk-off win. C4 wins their first ever softball playoff game. And she also struck out 12 batters in the circle. And then in the next round against North Johnston, she had a team-high 2 hits, struck out 8 batters, and of course, completed a shutout for C4. So dominant playoff performances from her as well. Nick Glover from the football season, he had a game against East Columbus that one we talked about that was kind of unofficial, but he had a big one, caught 2 touchdown passes. He also rushed for 51 yards and a touchdown. And then on the defensive side, he had 6 tackles, including 3 solos. So did it all for Chatham Central in that game, and they won that one 24-12. Going back to the basketball season, clicking through what I had here, Peyton Collins from C4 girls basketball team. She had a career high 31 points against Northwood on February 18th. And that, of course, sent C4 into the Mid-Carolina 1A2A tournament championship game. And then in that game, right, just more on that, 8 for 10 from the three-point line, 77% from the floor as a whole. And in the tournament final game, she had 11 points, 9 in the first half, and came away with multiple steals. If you guys remember, turned Southeast Alamance a lot early that led C4 to get in that lead they had, and they held it on to win the tournament championship game. So, also was a 1,000-point scorer this season for Peyton Collins in her career there. So, yeah, we had another athlete of the week, right? Daisy Collins. She had a long feature for me this year, and she earned athlete of the week for the week of February 3rd for winning the 1A, 2A girls 200 free style swim state championship with a time of 1 minute and 47.92 seconds. And then she also won the 500 free with a time of 4 minutes, 45.36 seconds. So both of those times shattered 1A, 2A meet records and met the All-American standard. And she was named the meet's most outstanding swimmer. So definitely had one of the most boastful athlete of the week entries this season at all of our athletes. So congrats to Daisy Collins once again on another great season. Looking forward to what she can do for the rest of her high school career. Lily Hicks, another pitcher. This was the week she had a perfect game against Northwood in the first round of the conference tournament. She struck out 10 batters across 7 innings, and of course, perfect game, 0 hits, 0 runs, no batters reached first. So, yeah, just great game from her. Sophia Viana, she has scored 7 goals in her first game back from injury during the week of April 14th to beat Barley-NC 15-0. Scored more than 5 goals for the third time that season. In that moment, she also had 2 goals against Orange, 3A opponent later that week, and against Middle Creek on April 17th, another high opponent. I think they're a 4A team. She scored the only goal. They needed to win their sixth straight game. So she came on strong out of injury. Also at C4, Jacob Winger, one of the kind of the single athlete of the weeks that was just a great performance on a Friday night against Northmore, which C4 lost that game, but he still had a big game in this one. He had caught 4 passes for 135 yards, and he scored on the first play at scrimmage with a 64-yard touchdown catch. And yeah, first quarter, if I remember correctly, he finished that one with 115 of his total receiving yards. So just great start for C4 in that one. And yeah, those are just a few that had listed as some standout athlete of the week performances. Of course, we had plenty of other ones, especially recently with some of the state championships we had finish up. So yeah, congrats to all those athletes. It's been a great year covering our athletes and highlighting their individual performances. And yeah, a lot of them are coming back next year. Some of them are going to go to college, so we're going to talk about a little bit now. But like we said, just a great year, and had plenty of fun covering all of our athletes here in the county.
Yeah, it's been an especially good year, and yeah, I didn't want to put pressure on Ashibo to say just 2 and 4, but as you saw, you mentioned a bunch of athletes of the week, and I've been doing this long enough that I can say that folks that participate in sports or even extracurricular activities in college, I mean in high school, usually have a tendency to do better in school and have a tendency to do better in life because there's a lot of life lessons they learn. And sometimes when I ask a coach the question, why do you coach, especially in a high school level, it's because they want to help develop that young lady or that young man into good adults. So thank you, coaches, for doing that. I want to give you all a shout out because I know you're not doing it for the money. There's that little extra that you put in there. That a lot of times, hey, you're a surrogate mom or dad in some situations. All right, we talked about the student athletes. Oh yes, we're going to talk about student athletes who are going to college in the fall. Again, and the Shibos had several articles out in the Chatham News and Record. Speaking of which, you definitely need to pick up a paper this week if any of your favorite athletes mentioned, because you will find that if you save those and set those aside, it may seem corny to your student athlete right now, but when they get out of school or when they have their own kids, they will appreciate the fact that you save those memories. And look, what paper's a couple of bucks. Go ahead and pick one up if you don't subscribe, and it's definitely worthwhile just to read Ashibo stuff. All right, let's talk about student athletes who are going to go to college in the fall. What do we know? What do we think? Do we know? What do we have kind of coming up or anything like that? What you got, Ashibo?
Yeah, so just some big ones. So just to remind some people who may have forgot, but of course, Gabby White from the C4 girls basketball team, she's going to go continue her career at Virginia and the ACC. Of course, one of the best women's basketball programs in college basketball, and so we'll get to see her there compete, possibly against her mom at UNC, who's an assistant coach, or I think the associate head coach for the girls basketball program there, and so that's a big one. Jack Anstrom from C4's cross country track teams as well. He's going to go continue his running career at NC State. And his teammate, Will Quickie, who also won a few state championships in his high school career, is going to go to Charlotte to run And then and this is from the story we had back in February, where Seaforth had like 10 college athletes signed to colleges at the same time on National Signing Day. And just further down the list, right? We had some big names from other sports. Kendall Anderson from volleyball going to Geneva, Cameron Exley from lacrosse going to Mary Washington, Benjamin LaJoy from swimming going to Ithaca, Evan Hepburn from swimming as well going to Bucknell, and Lane Armstrong, the wrestler who won state, going to Mount Union. So just a couple other names that you can read as well from our old stories. Recent ones, right? Brendan Oldham from Chatham Central basketball. He committed to Catawba Valley Community College. And also from Chatham Central, they had Kaylee Wharf from the softball team. She's signed to North Carolina Wesleyan. And then Sydney Ballard, also from Northwood girls basketball, signed with North Greenville. Sydney Nessos, Seaforth girls soccer, going to University of Lynchburg. We have a lot going to some college programs next season. And like we said, we had some, highlighted in our stories the past couple months. We may have some more, not all the way sure. But yeah, it's a lot. So we'll have a lot to keep up with next year when we do our college stories, keeping up with what players are doing what on the college level. And they'll add on to the list of Chatham athletes out there doing some big things on the next level. So, yep.
Yeah, because one of the things you're also doing in some of the articles that you put up, you've actually talked about the previous Chatham County student athletes that are now playing in college and how they're doing. So it's not just, hey, this is so and so going to this college, but Ashiba's doing a nice job following up and seeing what those folks are doing in college. So another part in the paper that you previously didn't see, Ashiba's going ahead and doing it. So if you're a fan of Chatham County student athletes, even if they're off to college, Ashiba Knight does a nice job of following them. The other thing, speaking about following, make sure you follow Ashiba on X on Ashiba R38, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But do want to mention next season's football preview. I've talked with Cameron Vernon. We had Ashiba and I were out. We started Jordan Matthews 2 years ago. Last year it was at Seaforth. And this year, we'll see if we can't get that in Northwood. And basically, all the 4 high school teams, football teams, come together with their coaches. They bring 2 to 4 of their players, and Ashiba tosses a bunch of questions on them. We video it, make it available. Ashiba writes some stories on it, so you get a good idea of what's going on in Chatham County high school sports. And I'm sure one of the questions is going to come up is, how do you feel about the new conference that you're in? Because I think, let's see, it's Northwood, C4, Chatham Central, and Jordan Matthews. Are any of them in the same conference as JM and Chatham Central in the same conference, or they're different conference?
No, so Jordan Matthews and Northwood will be together. I think they're going to be in the Four Rivers 3A, 4A, and then Seaforth is going to be by itself in the I think they're calling it the Big 7, 5A, and then Chatham Central will be by itself in another conference, and then Chatham Charter and Woods Charter will be together in a conference that's, I think, still the Central Tar Heel 1A, if I'm not mistaken, the name, but it's pretty much the same conference they've been in the past couple of years, but for the exception of like one team. So, yeah, that's how they're going to be split.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was at a school board meeting a few months ago, and they were talking about one of the things Chatham County with the fast growth is they take a look at the numbers in different schools, and actually Northwood used to be was the largest school in the county. That's now Seaforth, and actually the second largest school is JM, and then Northwood comes in third. Chatham Central's always been the smallest. Again, Bear Creek. Love the folks in Bear Creek, and that's again some of the projections as to growth. So yes, join us for the football preview. All right, let's talk about Ashibo had an interesting weekend assignment. I'm so happy he went ahead. He got an invite to do this, and he accepted the challenge. So, Ashibo, tell us what you did this weekend. What was your weekend assignment?
Yeah, so this weekend I freelanced with high school OT and took on some outside Chatham County stuff and went and covered the softball championships for them on Saturday. And so I got to see Union Academy finish a sweep over Perkins in the 1A championship, and then South Caldwell also finished their sweep against Conley in the 4A championship. So I got to talk to some other athletes, some other coaches. It was a great time. You know, it almost, still the same feelings, right? When you're covering athletes here in Chatham County, just love to see the kids doing well, enjoying all of their hard work, all the dedication they've put in over the year, come to fruition here into a championship, and they get rewarded for that. So it's pretty cool to see. And of course, yeah, like I said, love talking to the other athletes and getting to hear from other coaches as well. So maybe soon we'll see some Chatham County teams make the final weekend for softball and baseball. We'll see.
Yeah, baseball. Chatham Central has made the baseball a bunch of years ago, where they made it to 2 championship games and actually won one of those. So yeah, we've got the potential here in this county.
Oh yeah.
We mentioned the press awards. We won't know anything probably till August, so we'll let you folks know about that. All right. What events are you and I going to be covering this week? I know you're doing some stuff. So what are you doing this coming week?
Yeah, so actually with Legion, I think our American Legion 18U team, and then the 18-19U Heroes League for softball, they will be taking their senior week. So I think they'll have pretty much all this week coming next week off. So we'll have, I think, the 16U Heroes League, I think, is going to be playing some games during the week. So I might stop by there, check in on them. But we also have baseball in the Pony League, out in Chatham Central, with some of the 14U and 16U teams from Chatham, Randolph, coming together and playing in that league. So we might go out and stop by there. I got their schedule from Sean Murray earlier this week, and we'll see what games they can get in, because I know it's going to be a little tough with the rain coming in, today throughout the rest of the week. So that's kind of where I'm thinking I'll be headed to next week. In the summer, we don't have, of course, high school games every other night. So it's kind of here or there with summer baseball, summer softball, maybe some basketball, because Northwood's going to have a live team period coming up at the end of the month, and Bermuda run as well. You guys remember last year I went out there, kind of got an early look at Northwood's team before they really got up and running, for the winter. So yeah, it's going to be plenty of stuff throughout the summer that I stop into, and you'll see in the paper as well. So we'll keep you updated on our teams and athletes, even when they're not in school yet.
All right. Yeah, I do know I'm going to be shooting the UNC baseball games and the NCAA Super Regionals here in Chapel Hill. Duke's also in the Super Regionals, but their times are about the same as UNC's time. So I'll be at UNC. Ashibo, favorite memory or your overall feel of this past season here in Chatham County?
Let's see. Favorite memory, that's gonna be a tough one. I don't know. I think personally, like I said, that basketball game between Chatham Central and Wilson Prep, in Bear Creek, I think, you got the back-to-back defending champions coming in. Of course, the history with Brennan and Jeremiah, I didn't really, kind of put in my head until they told me about it after the game. And their environment, right? The crowds, it was a loud game. Of course, great competition between the two teams, great sportsmanship between the two teams as well. Yeah, I think to me that's like the core memory I think I have from this season. Just that, of course, like basketball season is always a highlight of the year. That and with Northwood making it to the state championship as well. Those two memories have really stuck with me this season. But I mean, overall feel, as far as seeing teams that were successful last year, maybe lose a lot of players, come back and kind of continue that success, which is kind of a common theme we had throughout the county across all the sports. I think that was really cool to see, and really a testament to how good our coaches are in this county as well, across all the sports, for for them to be able to keep their standards up when kids come in and come out, regardless of who they got there on the court or on the field. So yeah, that's just my kind of takeaways from this season.
Um, my memory, my favorite thing about the season is actually going to be a little different in that my favorite memory of the season is the fact that you're doing what you're doing. Folks, he doesn't have to be doing this live stream. This is something we have never done before. This is the second year we're doing. And the thing I have found with Ashibo is, and I've told him this before, I don't know what the newspaper industry is going to be like 10 years from now, but I think Ashibo's prepped and ready for anything that's coming on. He doesn't just do this live stream. He also has one with a couple of his buddies that work for ESPN, are interested in sports. They cover sports. They cover hip hop music. It's not just sports. They're just talking about stuff they enjoy doing. And I think the thing I have enjoyed this past season is when Ashibo and I are out at an event covering it, the fact that there are coaches and athletic directors that appreciate having him out there actually on the field. He does not spend a lot of time in the press box, I will tell you that. He's up and walking around the field. He sees the players, he sees the coaches, he sees the athletes, and I appreciate someone who's trying to share the story of Chatham County high school sports with the audience, with the parents, with their friends, their family members, and everyone else. So I do appreciate that. The other thing I like is when Ashibo goes, Ashibo, PJ, and I are texting each other. Ashibo's like, I'm going to be at this game. Who can cover it for photos? And PJ's like, well, I can. Or he goes, no, I can't. Gene, can you do it? So we're texting out, trying to figure out who's going to be taking pictures. And there's sometimes where neither PJ or I can cover an event. So Ashibo gets his camera out. Boom, he's taking a picture. And that's what you see in the paper. So that's what I enjoyed. And I agree with Ashibo. It's been a great sports year here in Chatham County High School. I mean, think about it. You had a player who's in the NBA draft leave last year, not around this year, yet you know what? There's still a lot of players doing a lot of great stuff, excelling in not just basketball, track and field, going on to, participate in NC State. Look, we're going to have another good year next year, but the athletes here in Chatham County keep on performing, and that's I think my favorite memory. And I hope the parents and the fans out there appreciate all the work Ashibo's done covering this. And like I said, pick up a darn paper, cut it out, save it for your kids, or if you really want to get extreme, save it for your grandkids. Because I've done this long enough where I've seen players that say, hey, thanks for taking those pictures, or writers writing the stories, because then they can show their kids that, hey, this is what your dad or your mom was like back in high school. So that's my memory for this year. All right. I will get off my soapbox. Anything else you need to say, Ashibo, before we kick off?
Yeah, just want to say thank you to everyone watching. I was watched this all year and even into last year when we started this thing. And like we said, we love covering your athletes, high school, middle school, youth, all the way, all the levels of sports here in Chatham County. And we just thank you for another great season. Hopefully we'll be able to all do this again back in August, and we'll get it started once again. But just keep following us throughout the summer. We'll have some stuff from some summer stuff, baseball, softball, basketball, like we said, and keep highlighting our athletes that are doing great things before they get back into the 2025-26 school year. And it's been an honor, Gene. Thank you for all the kind words and all the support you've shown for me and the Chatham News and Record this year, helping us with the photos, helping us get the paper looking nice as well, making sure we get all of our athletes captured, and as well with the interviews. You guys follow Gene. He has some great content with the interviews, making sure he's getting the full story, asking the coaches and the players all the questions he can to give you guys a full scope of everything. So, thank you, Gene. Thank you all watching, and really enjoyed this year.
Hey, Ashibo asked the better questions than I do. I just ask the stuff that the moms want to know about. So, hey, folks, we're going to wrap it up here. We'll see you in a couple months. Keep an eye on Ashibo. Again, he had an assignment with high school OT. I think we can expect big things from him. I hope he stays around with Chatham for at least a few more years. But again, he's got other opportunities. This man went. Where is it? You went to the UNC basketball game in the tournament. So he's based here in Chatham County, but he's expanding. So, folks, I will quit yakking. We'll see you in a couple of months. As always, thanks for watching. Oh, I do need to let you know, Facebook has changed their policy after 30 days. This video will no longer be on Facebook. However, we do archive a copy of it on X. And I think X has it available, but there's always a copy available on YouTube. So if one of your favorite episodes is off of Facebook, no worries, it is available on YouTube. All right. With that, we're going to end. 3,